Good Schmorgly. This is Spirit Matters, your daily Bhakti Center podcast, and we're so glad that you are here. Thank you. Coming at you live from New York. I'm Dal Grunga, and I'm here with Kishore Chandra. We're both in Brooklyn, although we're in different spaces. And normally we're joined by Chutiko, but she's not here this morning. So it's just the two of us rounding out your week. And I just wanted to say thank you for listening. Wherever you're tuning in from, just a reminder that you're not alone. There are other people listening to this very podcast. There's a dozen plus people tuning in our live Zoom chat, sending you love wherever you're from, whatever you're going through, whatever you're celebrating right now, whatever you're struggling with, wherever you're going, whatever you're doing laundry or putting your kids to bed, or your parents are putting you to bed, or you are making dinner or getting off from work, or you're at work and you don't want your boss to know that you're listening while you're supposed to be working. Whatever you're doing, we love you. This is your spiritual daily check-in from the Bhakti Center. We check in with each other. We read from the Bhagavad Gita. We take some takeaways, and then we try to make our lives better and the world around us consequentially. That's what we do. How are you, Kishore?
I'm doing well. Happy to be here.
That's what we get. That's what we got. That's key. That's my intro. That's Kishore's intro. So any updates? Anything happening? Thursday night Kirtan last night, the Bhakti Center was really sweet. We had a lot of beautiful people leading Kirtan. Our friend Jagadid Hari was in town, and there's just a lot of really sweet, beautiful people walking around the Bhakti Center. And I was on my way out, and I was like, there's so many people I just want to say hi to and get to know. And felt very alive, and it was really sweet, and made me appreciate just the people of New York and building community. So that was sweet. Kishore's nodding his head for those that are not watching our YouTube. I'm the blabberer. He's the head nodder.
It was very sweet. It was nice. I think it's interesting. The idea of community is really interesting. But this verse is not about community, so I don't want to go into a whole thing about
That's
community.
not the topic today, Dial, just FYI.
But I have a lot of thoughts on community. I read something recently.
Today's verse is on autonomy and anarchy. All right? So quit that community lovey-dovey crap.
But it was really nice. It was really nice to speak to people and to hear from people. And I think it's also, just to maybe tie it into Bhagavad Gita and Spirit Matters, I think it's just really a good thing to remind ourselves that, even though you might be going through it at some point in your life, or I might be going through it at some point in our life, when you're going through it, sometimes it feels very lonely and like you're the only one going through all of these kind of trials and tribulations. And something that I do really love about community is that the more you talk to people, and once you kind of get past that, like, how are you? I'm great. Okay, whatever, blah, blah. Once you get past the kind of small talk, you realize that everyone who somehow has connected to the Bhakti Center, they're on a journey. They're looking for something. They're looking for something deeper, something more meaningful. And oftentimes that might be instigated by some sort of reversal in life. And for those that can't see me, I'm doing air quotes, because what we might see as a reversal actually might take us to somewhere that's really deep, and it might take us to a community that are asking all the same questions. And so I'm just really grateful for Spirit Matters and for just all of the offerings at the Bhakti Center, because it connects us in a way that's much deeper than just kind of the superficial stuff.
I love the air quotes, very matter-of-factly. Like, for those who can't see, I'm beginning a very sarcastic face right now. Totally. So let's go ahead and dive into our verse of the day. It's 270, right?
Yes.
These are some classic verses. So yesterday we talked about what is night for all beings is a time of awakening for the self-control, and the time of awakening for all beings is night for the introspective sage. And so when we embark on our spiritual journey, we will naturally see a clash of values between maybe even ourselves, who we used to be and who we're trying to be, or the people that are friends with our old self but aren't on board with getting to know the new self that we're growing into. And this verse that we're going to read today speaks to how there are many influences that will stream into our life, and it will behoove us. I preempted Kishore on our word of the day. Behoove us to this verse speaks to developing a personal sense of depth that prevents us from being thrown off course by the superficial streams of life that come our way. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and read it and get into it.
The verse says, this is chapter 2, verse 70, and Krishna
says,
a person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires that enter like rivers into the ocean, which is ever being filled but is always still, can alone achieve peace, and not the person who strives to satisfy such desires. The purport's a little bit long, but it has very good.
Should we just work through the purport?
Let's work through the purport. It's a really good
purport. I'm good at interrupting you and blabbing when things come up.
You interrupt me when things come up, and I'll naturally pause if things come up as well. Okay, so it says, although the vast ocean is always filled with water, it is always, especially during the rainy season, being filled with much more water. But the ocean remains the same, steady. It is not agitated, nor does it cross beyond the limit of its brink. That is also true of a person fixed in Krishna consciousness. As long as one has the material body, the demands of the body for sense gratification will continue. The devotee, however, is not disturbed by such desires because of his fullness. A Krishna conscious person is not in need of anything because the Lord fulfills all his material necessities. Therefore, he is like the ocean, always full in himself.
Not full of himself, but full in himself.
Desires may come to him like the waters of the rivers that flow into the ocean, but he is steady in his activities, and he is not even slightly disturbed by desires for sense gratification. That is the proof of a Krishna conscious person, one who has lost all inclinations for material sense gratification, although the desires are present.
That's a great one. That is the proof of a Krishna conscious person, one who has lost all inclination for material sense gratification, although the desires are present. It doesn't mean that we all of a sudden, it means that there's going to be a tension. It means that we're going to feel that tension, that life is not just shanti, 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 peace, 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 but that as we are, this is being spoken on a battlefield, that there is a battlefield of life that we're all engaging in, and desires are going to be there that we're going to have to keep in check. We're going to feel the pull and the nudge to walk down roads that we know we shouldn't. And we're going to have to retrain ourselves to not give in to those impulses, because they lead us down. I was just looking at my bookshelf. I'm always trying to figure out, my wife's always trying to have me get rid of books, because we have so many books. And like, I have this intense attachment to books, even books I haven't read, or books that I know I'm never going to look at this book again. So I got a stack of books that I was going to get rid of. And then I looked at each one and I was like, I can't part with this. There's valuable stuff in here. What if I need to open it up and read a line or reference something? So anyways, one book that I noticed on myself was this book called The Principle of the Path. And it's predicated on this idea that direction, not intention, leads to our destination.
Yeah.
So like we live in New York and we want to go to Florida, and like, we can get on the highway headed, like we can pack up all of our swimsuits and we can book reservations in Tampa Bay, and we could like say prayers, God, please, give us a safe journey to Florida. And if we head on the highway and start going north,
Mm-hmm.
we're not going to end up in Florida. Like no matter what intention we set, no matter what preparations we make, if we get on a road that leads to Buffalo,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to end up in a snowstorm. And so I think also this applies to our spiritual life very, very much so, that direction, like the road that we get on. And so our habits, our daily life choices become extraordinarily powerful in spiritual life. And okay, I won't get into that, because that can create a lot of pressure. Like, oh my God, every choice is really important. Don't make the wrong choice. We also have the opportunity to continuously if we make a bad choice, that's okay. Let it go. Try again. We have the opportunity to keep trying. But this idea of when Prabhupada said that although the desires are present, there's always going to be this inclination, this push towards things that aren't really great for us.
Mm-hmm.
And our job is to continuously, what Prabhupada said so beautifully is that he loses the inclination to engage in those things because we are full in ourselves, not full of ourselves, full in ourselves. And he mentions that a Krishna conscious person is not in need of anything, i.e., not in need of anything external, because there's a fulfillment of self internally. Because, Prabhupada goes on, because the Lord fulfills all the material necessities, not all my material wants and desires and fantasies and exposés, but I have what I need. And you take it from there, Kishore.
To hear from there. I was just going to say, I was remembering at Tuesday Night Kirtan this week when you were leading, I heard you describe Ram in such a nice way, and I can't remember exactly the words that you used, because usually this word Ram is defined to as like that well of inner joy, or that eternal place of satisfaction. But I can't remember the terminology that you used. Do you remember?
I don't know. It was really deep and beautiful and moved me in a profound way and just stuck with me. But I
Now
have no idea. I have no idea what it was.
you just said it in a different way. It was like the same message, but it was in a different way. But anyway, whenever we explain the Maha Mantra and we're going through the words Hare Krishna, the names, and Ram is always kind of referred to as that reservoir, that inner well of deep satisfaction that is on a higher level. It's not coming from the satisfaction of getting our desires fulfilled, of getting the girl or the guy, getting the job, getting the thing that we've been longing for and hankering for so long. And rather it's coming from a much deeper place. And I think that this is such an important kind of, I don't know if it's like a muscle to exercise. It's more of like an uncovering of something that already exists there, and us just getting out of our own way to see that it's already there, that this inner satisfaction, that this deep ocean is already there. And earlier in chapter 2, right? I think Bahushaka, I think it was in chapter 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, earlier in chapter 2, Krishna is describing the intelligence of the two different types of people. The person that's kind of fixed in transcendence with Krishna, that's kind of like this fixed intelligence of just like, all I see is you, Krishna. And then the intelligence of someone who is kind of in this materialistic kind of chasing after desires, and he defines it as many branched, as just like everywhere. You're just kind of everywhere and going for everything. And you can think of this as, when you really like think about life, sometimes when we hear like things like desire and like lust and like, these kinds of words, sometimes it gives such a like negative connotation. And in your mind, you think like, oh yeah, like I'm not that, like that seems like really bad. I'm not that. But like, if you read the purport, like Prabhupada says really clearly that, wait, am I on the right purport? Yes, I'm on the right purport. Prabhupada says really clearly that the proof is one who has lost inclinations for all material sense gratification, from although the desires are present. And this is, I think, really important because, like, even Sri Chaitanya is talking about this, how the mood is not to, in his Shikshastakam, after he speaks about humility and tolerance and etc., these like very, very beautiful instructions that we speak about a lot. He speaks about how he doesn't want any, beautiful women. He doesn't want any followers. He doesn't want any riches. He doesn't want any of this like high status, high education. He doesn't want any of that. He just wants this eternal relationship with Krishna. Like that's his direction, as you were saying. And so I don't know where I'm going with this rant, but I guess what I'm trying to say is that I think it's really important. Okay, I know where I'm going. I think it's really important to know that inner wellspring of a higher satisfaction, right? Krishna is always available to us. I was in a class a few days ago, and the presenter was saying something really, really nice. That to satisfy our desires, we actually have to work a lot. It takes a lot of work to satisfy our desires, right? We have to like go out and work and get the thing and buy and blah and whatever. And whether it's a personal desire or even like social, desires. I have to go and meet the person at the place. Yesterday, I was at the Apple store for like 3 hours trying to satisfy a desire about this phone. Like we just like think about your life. You go to so many places trying to like get and do and all this stuff. And he was making the point that, that he was speaking about, this was the seventh canto of Bhagavatam, won't get into it too much, but speaking about how to come into communion with Krishna, you don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to like leave your house. You don't have to like book an appointment at the Genius Bar and be like, okay, Krishna, are you going to be there at that time? You don't have to do any of that stuff. You actually just have to be with yourself. And that kind of, when he said that, I was just like, yeah, that is true. Like, it's so simple, but at the same time, it's so difficult, because for those of us that, practice japa or meditation, when you sit with yourself, all of the chatter and the noise of the mind comes up. And then that's where that internal work comes, so that we can be like that deep ocean that's not getting disturbed by the incessant flow of the rivers. And that's why we're here. That's why we're here talking to each other and sharing this knowledge from Bhagavad Gita. But it just really hit me like, yeah, we're venturing so far and so much and doing so much endeavor to satisfy our desires. And really to just come into communion with Krishna, I just have to like sit in my room, like all these saints in our lineage, they have something called like a bhajan kutir, which is like it's like a little hut where they just go and they chant and they be with Krishna. And some of us were in India recently. Pasha was there and Lane was there. And it's like, you see these things and it's just like, wow, okay. Like they were just there chanting with Krishna and doing their thing. And it's like, okay, like all I have to do is just like have my own little personal bhajan kutir sacred space and just come into communion with Krishna. But of course, there's a simplicity to that and also a complexity. But I'll end my rant here. So I ranted a bit.
That's perfect. You tied it up nicely. I love, because it ties in. I was rereading the verse again and like thinking of my own takeaways from it. And a person who's not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires that enter like rivers into the ocean, which is ever being filled, but is always still. And so that ability to find stillness, and the reminder that I don't have to react to everything that comes in front of me. I just don't have to react. I don't have to respond. I don't have to chase. I don't have to believe every desire that comes into me. You know what I mean? My mind says I need that. I don't have to believe that. You know, it says I need that. Maybe I don't. What would happen if I just gave it a little bit of space first, before lunging into action, before plunging forward towards just grabbing it? And so I think that that's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful reminder for us to seek stillness and to not feel like I have to respond to everything that comes my way.
And actually, I love that you made that point, because actually, like, when you realize that you don't need to respond to everything, it's almost like a relief. At least I've felt that personally. Like, I realize, like, sometimes when I see myself in retrospect of like how I responded to every single thing,
Mm.
and not necessarily the way that I wanted to. And I think about it in retrospect, and I'm like, that's exhausting, you know? Like, it's exhausting to feel so attached to, like, I have to respond to everything that's coming my way. And it's like I've been taking a lot more time recently
Mm.
to take time before I respond to things, anything, literally anything. And not a long time, but just some time, and figure out, like, what's my capacity? Can I do this? Do I even really want this? Is this something that is aligned with me? Do I need to say this? Like, just all these questions that will naturally come, they will naturally come when you take that pause to just be still and be like, okay, do I really need, that iPhone 14 Pro Max with all the, things where I'm like, do I really need that? Or do I just want it? Or do I need to make this snide comment to my partner right now? Like, or is that just coming from a place of like anger or something like that,
The snide comments I make to my partner are generally coming from a place of anger.
Yeah, me too,
Yes.
exactly. And
Um,
lately I've been like, oh, I don't need to do that. That's just nonsense.
but and Kishore did spend 3 hours at the Apple store
I did.
yesterday.
I did. It
Um,
was to fix a phone, not to get a new one.
he wasn't pursuing any material desires. He was just responding to something very important.
Exactly.
But there was something I was going to say, and then I started making a side comment about the Apple store. What were you
I
just
was
saying?
talking about like relationship and snide comments and stillness and not
Oh
responding
yeah,
to.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. And so, like you're saying, I don't have to. And so I think that what Krishna consciousness gives us, what bhakti is offering, what the Bhagavad Gita is offering. And then I'll finish reading some of the commentary here, and then maybe I'll wrap something, rewind. I'll finish reading some of the commentary here, and then maybe we can wrap something up that we can take home. Srila Prabhupada writes, because he's talking about the transcendental person, remains satisfied in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, they can remain steady like the ocean and therefore enjoy peace. So it's not just like, okay, go in your room, close your eyes and sit silent and you will become peaceful. It's remaining satisfied through bhakti, which is translated as devotional service. And so it's cultivating love through service towards a higher power. There's a lot that goes into that. But the idea of cultivating love through service to a higher power, through that, one can remain steady like the ocean and therefore enjoy full peace. Others, however, i.e., who do not have that, who have not cultivated that love through service to a higher power, but want to fulfill desires even up to the limit of liberation, what to speak of material success, never attain peace. Because like you were saying, Kishore, I'm constantly endeavoring for something outside of myself. He said, the fruit of workers, the salvationists, and also the yogis who are after mystic powers are all unhappy because of unfulfilled desires. But the person in Krishna consciousness is happy in the service of the Lord and has no desires to be fulfilled externally outside of oneself. In fact, they don't even desire liberation from the so-called material bondage. The devotees have no material desires, and therefore they are in perfect peace. And so I think what we're being offered is really it's alternatives. It's alternatives. It's like, okay, I'm what are my other options here? I'm feeling like pushing this button to pull myself towards getting this, that, or the other. Um, Somebody wrote in the chat, sometimes our snide comments come from anger, but sometimes they just come from exhaustion. So I'm feeling anger. I'm feeling exhausted. I could reach for X, Y, and Z. I could, I'm feeling, there are options in terms of how we achieve happiness. And I think, there's this book called Essentialism, which is the art. Really, it's in a lot of ways the art of saying no. Because every time we say yes to something, we're saying no to something else, right? Anytime I say yes to something, I say no to something else. And it may seem like I've got some free space in my calendar. Hey, do you have time right now? And it's like, I'm free. And so we just say yes. But what else could I be using with that time? What else could I be doing with the time I spent watching X or doing X or blah, blah, blah? And so I think that what we're reminded here is that we have alternatives of how we engage ourselves in a way that is increasing the depth of my ocean so that I have a reservoir of fullness to allow me to remain still when the waves of life become turbulent. And so that's all I got. I can only take it so far, and I need you to just finish it off for me.
Well, I think it's time for Kimberly to finish it off for us.
Kimberly, give us your takeaways.
All right. Today we're taking away that direction leads us to our destination. Be full in ourselves like the ocean, and that inner wellspring of higher satisfaction in devotional service is always available to us at any moment when we seek stillness.
Closing word, Kishore?
Yeah, I'm still meditating on that Krishna is always there. Krishna's not going anywhere, and he has never gone anywhere, and he never will. And sometimes I think in those moments where we get so distracted with things, or even distracted in our own inner world, our inner mind, that tends to happen to me. We forget that Krishna's always there, always will be, and never will leave. And he's just waiting for us to kind of turn to him and be like, hey, let's come into communion with each other. Let's have this exchange of love. And that's something that I need to remind myself on a daily basis, because, especially living in cities and stuff, it's really easy to get carried away by material things. And so to just bring that remembrance back that Krishna's always there, we're never alone. And like Kimberly said, that inner wellspring of higher satisfaction with Krishna, it's always available to us. We don't have, I saw in the chat, we don't have to go into like the Himalayas and the caves and all this stuff and just be like, I'm renouncing society. It's like, no, it's actually always available to us, wherever we may be. So I'm walking away with that.
But if you do want to go to the caves of the Himalayas, Kishore and Danya and Bali are taking a group of people in January, which you can go to bhakticenter.org to find out how.
Yeah, we'll go to a cave in the Himalayas.
You go to a cave in the Himalayas. It's really beautiful. It's a great place to be still. My closing word is just reminder that I have options. I want to live my life by making choices, not just sliding into the defaults. It's just so many default after day after day after day. And then we're wondering, like, there's a feeling of not being where you want to be completely. And you recapture that by reminding that you have choices. I don't have to do this right now. I'm not talking about like the response, I have to go to work, etc. But like, I don't, in terms of what I consume through my senses, I want to make choices of how I want to, and it's just a moment to moment consideration of, I could be doing something else with my time right now, if I really wanted, overall, and filling that with things that I know are good for me, that I will feel better about. I'm going to do that right now after this podcast. I got to go, everybody. Love you guys so much. Thank you for being here. We are so grateful. If there's something beautiful that you heard, share it with a friend. Share it with us. Write to us at spiritmatters@bhakticenter.org. Tag us on the gram at Bhakti Center. And we will see you next week. We are off for the weekend, and we look forward to seeing you guys on Monday. Please take care. Be well. Bye-bye.